Have you ever noticed something strange? A woman barely responds to your messages. She seems distant. She acts like losing you doesn't matter. So eventually, you stop chasing, you focus on yourself, you move on, and then, out of nowhere, she starts liking your stories. She asks mutual friends about you. She suddenly finds reasons to text. Coincidence? Not always. Sometimes people don't fully understand someone's value until they experience their absence. But here's the important part. This isn't about playing games or manipulating anyone. It's about understanding a psychological pattern that often happens when emotional certainty disappears. Today, we're exploring 6 signs a woman starts missing you only after you move on. And trust me, the final sign is often the quietest, but psychologically, it's the most powerful. Human psychology has an interesting habit. We often notice what we had only after it's no longer available. When someone knows you'll always be there, your presence can slowly become part of their normal routine. Not because they don't care, but because certainty reduces emotional urgency. Then something changes. You stop chasing, you stop waiting, you stop trying to convince them to choose you, and suddenly, they experience something they weren't expecting, your absence. This doesn't mean every woman will miss you after you move on, and it certainly doesn't mean you should leave someone just to get their attention. Healthy relationships are built on honest communication, not emotional games. But in some situations, distance creates clarity. Let's explore the psychological signs. Sign number 1, she suddenly becomes curious about your life. One of the first signs isn't romance, it's curiosity. When you were always available, she already knew where you were emotionally. There was no mystery, no uncertainty, but once you genuinely move forward, something changes. She starts wondering, who are you spending time with? Are you happier now? Did you meet someone else? What changed? Psychologists often describe curiosity as a natural response to uncertainty. Our brains don't like unanswered questions, especially when someone who was once emotionally predictable suddenly isn't. You may notice she starts watching every story. She reacts to things she previously ignored. She casually asks mutual friends about you, not because she necessarily wants you back immediately, but because your life is no longer something she can easily predict. And uncertainty often captures attention far more than certainty ever did. Sign number 2, she starts remembering the good more than the bad. Here's something fascinating about memory. Time changes it. Immediately after conflict, people often focus on mistakes, arguments, disappointments, frustration, but as emotional intensity fades, the brain begins filtering those experiences differently. Suddenly, she remembers the conversations that made her laugh, the road trips, the inside jokes, the support you gave, the peaceful moments. This isn't because the problems never existed, it's because distance allows emotions to settle. Psychologists call this emotional reconstruction. People don't always remember relationships exactly as they happened. They remember how those relationships made them feel over time, and once you've moved on, the emotional balance inside her memory may slowly shift toward appreciation instead of irritation. That's often when missing someone quietly begins. Sign number 3, she notices that you're no longer seeking her validation. This one is surprisingly powerful. During the relationship or situationship, you may have constantly looked for reassurance, waiting for replies, trying to impress her, wondering what she thought. Your emotional focus stayed on her. But after moving on, that energy disappears. You're no longer trying to prove your worth, you're living your own life. Ironically, confidence often becomes more visible when it's no longer trying to be noticed. She sees you smiling, growing, improving, without asking for her approval. That emotional independence creates a psychological contrast. She starts realizing, you really don't need me to validate you anymore. And sometimes, that's exactly when she begins questioning how much you actually meant to her, because people often recognize emotional strength only after it's no longer directed toward them. So far, we've talked about curiosity, memory, and emotional independence. But the next 3 signs go much deeper. In fact, one of them explains why some women suddenly return after months of silence. If you're finding these psychological insights interesting, take a moment to subscribe and tell me in the comments. Have you ever seen someone appreciate you only after you walked away? Now, let's continue. Sign number 4, she starts comparing new experiences to what she had with you. Comparison is one of the brain's automatic habits. Every new experience gets measured against previous ones. Maybe she meets new people, maybe she goes on new dates, maybe life simply moves forward. But then, small moments begin reminding her of you. Someone doesn't understand her humor the way you did. Someone listens, but not as deeply. Someone is kind, but lacks the emotional comfort she once felt around you. Again, this doesn't automatically mean she wants to rebuild the relationship. It simply means your emotional impact has become part of her internal standard. Many people don't fully understand what made someone special until they experience different personalities afterward. That's when comparison quietly becomes appreciation, and appreciation often becomes missing someone. Sign number 5, she begins finding unexpected reasons to reach out. This sign usually surprises people. The messages don't always look romantic, sometimes they're incredibly ordinary. Hey, I just remembered something. I saw this and thought of you. How have you been? Or maybe she reacts to an old photo, comments on something random, sends a meme, asks a simple question she could easily have answered herself. Why? Because emotionally, direct vulnerability can feel risky, especially if she isn't sure how you'll respond. Instead of saying, I've been missing you, she creates small opportunities for conversation, tiny emotional doorways, not because she's guaranteed to want the relationship back, but because reconnecting feels emotionally safer than openly admitting what's changed inside her. The psychology here is simple. People often test emotional distance before revealing emotional truth. Sign number 6. She realizes your absence changed more than your presence ever did. This is the deepest sign of all. When someone is consistently present, their value can quietly blend into everyday life. Not intentionally, just naturally, but absence creates contrast. Imagine removing music from a movie. You don't notice the soundtrack until it's gone. Relationships can work the same way. Maybe she suddenly notices no one checks in the same way you did. No one understood certain parts of her personality. No one made ordinary moments feel as comfortable. Your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was. This realization isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it happens while driving home alone, sometimes while hearing a familiar song, sometimes during a difficult day when she instinctively thinks about texting you before remembering you've already moved on. Psychologists often describe this as delayed emotional awareness. Some emotions need distance before they're fully understood, not because love suddenly appeared, but because clarity finally did. And that's why this final sign is often invisible to everyone except the person experiencing it. The bigger psychological picture. Here's the truth many people misunderstand. Moving on shouldn't be a strategy. It shouldn't be something you fake to make another person chase you. Real growth isn't about creating jealousy. It's about reclaiming your own emotional peace. Ironically, that's when people often become more attractive. Not because they're pretending not to care, but because they're genuinely investing in themselves. Confidence, purpose, emotional balance. These qualities naturally change how others perceive you. Sometimes, a woman may begin missing you after you move on. Sometimes, she won't. And that's okay, because the healthiest outcome isn't getting someone back. It's becoming someone who no longer depends on another person's attention to feel complete. That's real emotional maturity. Relationships often teach us lessons after they end. Sometimes both people grow, sometimes only one does. Sometimes distance reveals feelings that were hidden by routine, and sometimes it simply confirms that moving forward was the right decision. The important thing is this: never pause your life waiting for someone to realize your worth. The right people won't value you only after you've disappeared. They'll value your presence while they still have it. If someone truly misses you after you've moved on, their actions, not just their words, will reveal it over time. Because genuine appreciation is shown through consistency, not temporary emotion. If you enjoyed today's psychological insights, make sure to subscribe for more videos on female psychology, relationships, and human behavior. Leave a comment below. Which of these 6 signs surprised you the most? And have you ever experienced someone realizing your value only after you moved on? If you found this video helpful, give it a like and share it with someone who might need this perspective. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.